Ladies and gentlemen, in this video I want to do a bit of moon math with Hex passing a particular inflection point that is very inflective, at least historically speaking. I do think it is time to attempt to do some moon math. So if you like some of that, folks, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. So I just want to start off by saying, man, I'm so tired of being broke. You guys ever seen that Chappelle, what's that one Chappelle clip? I think he's doing stand-up where he was talking about being broke.
Fucking hate being poor.
Well, anyways, that's how I feel. And I bring this up as to explain why I think it's worthwhile to even listen to me in the first place. Because, folks, look, I'm a person who's been studying these markets for years at this point. I've gone all in on one particular ecosystem, that being the Richard Heart ecosystem. Richard Heart has made Hex, a cryptocurrency that did a 10,000x last cycle. And I think, I've been saying for years at this point, I think will be a very strong performer come the next cycle. And the reason why I'm making this video right now is because we are now passing an inflection point. We're, for the moment at least, spending time at above 7 cents, which has historically been a major area of support / resistance. So the fact that this is happening now is quite significant. Now, something else to consider. If we go to the Twitter account where I'm not blocked, and go to the Richard Hart's account, by the way, folks, link down in the description below if you guys want to give my personal Twitter account a follow. I'd greatly appreciate that. Hex is pumping on the recent news. There's been some developments with Pulse Chain. For those uninitiated, Pulse Chain is a faster, cheaper version of Ethereum that Richard Hart is working on. And the big takeaway that has the market feeling bullish right now is this sentence right here. All clients are testing well now, and the tooling is being prepared for testnet version 3 launch. The reason why this is extremely significant is because once the testnet v3 launches, that is essentially basically the final version or close to the final version of Pulse Chain. Well, Pulse Chain will be launching very soon after. We're very likely going to have a snapshot event. That is the most likely thing that my intuition leads me to believe is a rational way in which things would progress. And then we will have the launch of Pulse Chain hopefully soon after that. So there's some reason to believe that the testnet is happening soon, which is why we're seeing this pump in price action. Now, folks, look, there's something to be said for the fact that if we look at kind of different momentum indicators, this one right here being the relative strength index, we are approaching overbought regions that have historically correlated with kind of local peaks in price action. So we are quite overbought. So I think dollar cost averaging at these regions does bring with it a bit of short-term risk. But with that being said, in my opinion, anything under a 10-cent hex long-term, next I'm talking with a year or two perspective in mind here, is probably, not financial advice, a pretty good buy with a potential for 100x returns. Not necessarily because we might see a $10 hex, although that's totally possible. I've made a video breaking down the possibility for why we could see a mid $20 hex. I'll leave a link for that down in the description below. You can check that out somewhere over here or at the end of the video. Anyways, my point is, folks, one of the reasons why it's very hard to beat Hex is, yeah, it's tokenomics, it's community. But because if you buy Hex before the snapshot, you'll get a 2x of your supply. Meaning, for you to get 100x with Hex, Hex only needs to 50x because your supply will soon 2x. So to get 100x, you really only need a 50x. So folks, let's say one were to buy at 7.5 cents Hex right now. Well, you need a $7.50 Hex for 100x. But really, you need half of that because, again, your supply is going to double. So folks, I had the privilege of dollar cost averaging a lot around the 3-4 cent range. Again, if anyone is dollar cost averaging at these regions, we are potentially a bit overextended in the short term, so dips are always in the game. But long term, I believe that accumulating Hex under 10 cents with a 1 to 2 year mindset perspective is probably going to end up being profitable, at least in my opinion. Not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor. Now, given that we are holding above this inflection point for now, should we see a bit of consolidation at these regions? I see no reason as to why, upon official news of the testnet launch, if Richard sends a tweet saying, we have testnet next week, I could totally see a 10 to 12 cent hex in the playbook. Why 10 to 12 cents? Well, 12 cents and approaching 12 cents. We're starting to run up against historical resistance. So basically, since we've broken through one major layer of historical resistance, next major layer begins at 10 cents all the way to up to 12 cents. So, folks, to be able to summarize here, in terms of like future long-term price predictions, could we see a $5 hex, $10, $25 hex? That's all possible. But in my opinion, I think it's unhelpful to kind of think about long-term price predictions in terms of the kind of these arbitrary price targets. I think it's much more helpful to kind of follow the market, try and find signs of weakness, try and find inflection points that kind of determine when the market might be switching from macro bullish to macro bearish, and then create a take profit strategy based off that rather than arbitrary targets that may or may not be hit. So that's kind of my view, folks. I mean, bull markets typically last roughly a year after the latest Bitcoin halving. At least that's when they usually peak out. Again, very roughly. So next Bitcoin halving is March 2024. So, I would kind of think about maybe perhaps taking profits 6 months to a year, roughly, after the latest Bitcoin halving. Not financial advice. That is just a strategy that has historically worked very well, and in my opinion is likely to work moving forward. But, you do you, boo. Now, in terms of short term here, folks, I don't like pumping. I don't like buying pumps. I mean, even during an uptrend, dips are in the game. So if you can, perhaps try and catch a dip at around the 7 cent mark. That is where I personally would be looking to scoop up some hex. Again, folks, we have been uptrending for a while. There are some signs of us being overextended in the short term. So should we perhaps start to lose some of this bullish uptrend structure, perhaps start to spend time below 7 cents, start to put in a new lower low below 5.5, then perhaps we could see a deeper correction. But with the kind of news of the testnet coming soon, I really think that there is a solid chance with a bullish catalyst theoretically quickly approaching that this uptrend has a likelier than not chance of continuing, at least in the short term, with dips in the game, of course. Now, with that being said, there's something to keep in mind, which is, sometimes we have a buy the rumor, sell the news event, right? Where whenever there's a big kind of rumored bullish catalyst, people tend to accumulate, and then once that catalyst comes, people tend to sell. It doesn't always happen, but there's a chance that this could happen with testnet. Now, I won't be selling my hex. What I will do in terms of potential short-term profit taking is sack my profits, because folks, there's a video I made just the other day talking about Power City and Famous.io, two potentially major ecosystem projects launching on the Pulse Chain network, building different interesting dApps. One is a decentralized derivative exchange, fork of GMX, and another is Power City, kind of a hub that creates different dApps and then takes fees from those dApps and then redistributes those fees back to the token stakers. So I potentially, if we see a 10, 12 cent hex, might choose to sack a little bit more for Power City and Famous.io. At the time of recording, I believe Famous.io has 1 week left for their sack phase. So maybe, I'm recording, what day is it? On a Wednesday, so there's a couple more days left, potentially a sack for Famous.io. And then Power City, I believe their sack phase is going on until the launch of Pulse Chain. So, folks, that's what I'm up to. All of you guys appreciate a little bit of my moon math here. Folks, before you go, please check out that video I made about Power City and Famous.io. I do a quick breakdown and summary of what those projects are about. If you find that interesting, I'll leave a link somewhere over there. And then I don't know if I can do this because this video is from another channel, my other channel, Millionaire of the Moon. But if I can, I'll try and leave a link for me breaking down some of the moon math for the case of hex potentially going to kind of the mid $20 range. Folks, do me a favor, this brand new channel, every single like, every single share, every single sub helps out tremendously. But the best thing you can do is watch these other videos. Until next time, folks, I'll leave it here. Take care.
I keep my mind on my money, money on my mind. Finger on the trigger, nigga, hand on my nine, smoking blunts of skunk, making holes of pumps and only underground funk bumping out of my trunk. Little life of a hustler, high till I die.